From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Kent's Meats and Grocery is much more than a grocery store. We carry a full line of quality meats, local and organic vegetables, and a large variety of fish, Green Mountain Smart Control pellet grills, and a full deli case of sandwiches and side dishes.
Happy holidays from Weather NorCal and our sponsors. Have a wonderful holiday season.
Well, since we're already in that holiday spirit, what do you say we just mention the 21st Annual Bike Drive, Ted Blankensheim 21st Annual Bike Drive. There are a lot of different locations where you can drop off bikes for the little ones here that are a little less fortunate than many of us, and just kind of that reminder that there are kids out there that may not have bikes. Remember bikes growing up? It was kind of like your world, your only source of transportation that you had control of. Imagine not having that. So you can make the world of a difference in a kid's world here by donating a bike. There are plenty of places for you to donate those bikes. You've got until the 24th, by the way. Take a look at this. We've been getting some great photos from some of you coming in here from all the fog. And this is coming in from Cheryl. Now, she's out in the Lewiston area and went out to the top of Hoadley Peaks. And this image is looking out over the Trinity Alps and over the Lewiston area. And you can see just socked in with that fog. So it's not just the Sacramento Valley that's been dealing with this fog. But for those of you in those mountain valleys, that fog has been fairly persistent as well. Some areas in the mountain valleys have been seeing some clearing through the afternoons, but of course then it kind of reemerges in the overnight and early morning hours. So you can see the low visibility that we have for the Sacramento Valley, but also many of those mountain valleys as well. In fact, there's a dense fog advisory, by the way, for north central Siskiyou County, which includes Wairika down to Weed until about 9 o'clock this morning. Let's take what it looks like right now on I-5 in central Wairika. There you go, right? You've got that dense fog there. So if you are traveling northward through Wairika, just note that. And of course, we're still seeing that fog in the Sacramento Valley. There's a Sundial Bridge Drive on Highway 44. There's Red Bluff on I-5 right there. Dense fog. Right, we take you out to Chico, you've got the fog there as well. No big surprises when we take a look at those images. So really the headlines, I haven't changed these headlines for the last few days because there hasn't been much change. Morning valley fog with areas of clearing, especially to the north. Dry and stagnant pattern through the weekend, that's still in store for us. Sunny and mild in the mountains as you get above the fog if you're not in those mountain valleys. And the wet weather pattern, yeah, it looks more promising for next week. We're going to get into all of that in the deeper dive. But first, here's your Krueger's Quickcast for your Friday. It is Friday, folks, that last day of work of the week, and then we get the weekend off, at least some of us, right? But there's the fog that we do have this morning for the Valley, Trinity County, even western Siskiyou County. Of course, as you saw there in the Wairika area, there's that fog this morning. And then, of course, for the North Coast, you've got that fog as well. All right, so there's the big picture. So we still have that ridge of high pressure. You see that cold front off to our west, all that energy being pushed to the north over the ridge of high pressure. But look what's happening. We're beginning to see the area of low pressure to our west amplify a bit. It's beginning to gain some strength. This is the area of low pressure that it's not going to move directly over us, but it's going to be enough to disrupt things. Push the ridge out of the area by early next week, and then what you see here, that should be gone. The fog should be gone. So much like the last several days, we may see some clearing around the Redding area, but this is not what I expect. I don't expect it to clear out. Forecast models tend to have a difficult time with that. I still think the fog will be quite dense in some areas, especially south of Redding, all the way down to Chico and Willows into Glen and Butte counties. But then, for areas that do see clearing, that fog will reemerge once again late tonight. Rinse and repeat. Broken record, right? Same story. All right, so you have mostly sunny skies above the fog, temperatures well into the 60s for the mountains, but only in the 40s for the valley, once again because of that fog, and low 60s out along the coast. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook for the valley. Now, again, it's the same situation. And the thing is, I don't have fog in there for Sunday or Monday, but when we look at the long-range forecast, as we do go into next week, there still may be signs of that fog even into Sunday and Monday. We'll see. But it looks like finally some disturbances pushing through next week that's going to push the fog out, but also give us a chance for some rain. For the coast, Really, you got that chance for rain as early as Sunday night into Monday, as well as the inland areas, but for Trinity County, probably not until Monday night into Tuesday. And that's the same story for places like Siskiyou, Modoc County, and Susanville. So fairly dry for most of us, minus the coast through at least Monday. And then by Monday night into Tuesday, we've got that chance for showers. All right, that's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. What do you say? Now we take a look at our deeper dive forecast. This is when we really dive deep into, really going to go into next week, what we expect with that. But before we get into that, we got to check in with our sponsor of the Deeper Dive Forecast, and that is Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
All right, so we start with that fog again, right? We're seeing that fog in the valley. Now, it's not, again, keep in mind, the forecast models do have a difficult time with that fog, but it's doing pretty good with the valley. It's doing pretty good even where we're seeing that dense fog advisory for central Siskiyou County, right? But it's not really showing the fog that we are seeing in many of those mountain valleys, including places like Weaverville, Hayfork, seeing some of that as well. And as expected, by shortly before the noon hour, we may start to see some clearing, mainly around the Redding area. This is not a good representation of what we'll see this afternoon. I still think we're going to see some pretty dense fog south of Redding. And then, of course, eventually that fog will reemerge going into your tonight into early Saturday morning. There it is by about 8 a.m. There it is kicking back in. And then same song and dance, right? It starts to clear out, especially for Redding. Once again, I still think we may still see some fog there on Saturday. And then Sunday, Monday, let's take a look at the winds, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You've got to have calm winds in order for the fog to sustain itself. If the winds pick up 6, 7, 8, just a little bit below, say, even 10 miles per hour, that's enough to scour things out. Fog is pretty fragile. So all you got to do is just kind of blow that wind a little bit, and that pushes out the fog. But look at Saturday morning. Look at Sunday morning. The winds are still fairly calm. And even as we go into Monday morning, even though the storm is approaching on Monday, you've got some pretty gusty winds along the coast, still calm winds in the valley. That could still help to sustain some fog even Monday morning. So I know we're talking about the fog moving on out of here, but it's probably not until, say, around Monday or Tuesday that will start to happen. And the reason being is we've still got this ridge of high pressure. That's what I've been talking about all week long, and really what's been driving this fog that we're seeing, right? But this right here, this is going to help to disrupt things, kind of mix things out, and eventually that will mix the fog out. But one thing I do need to mention, it will help to mix things out, but this low pressure itself is not going to move directly over us. It's going to kind of ride to our north, but what it will do is help to break away at this persistent ridge of high pressure. And that's the key, right? So take a look at this. Here we've got that persistent ridge of high pressure that we've been talking about all week long. It's a big reason why we're seeing the fog out there, okay? But it is time for change. I mean, I think most people would agree. So this area of high pressure, because of this low and this energy, as it kind of starts to ride and push to the east, it's going to help to push that area of high pressure off to our east as well. Now, we still have a bit of a ridge that's over us, so that could still help to sustain some of the fog because we're not looking at winds just yet. This is where the winds are. We're not seeing much in the way of winds here just yet. Then you can see that area of low pressure, energy really starting to push to the east. Look what it's doing. It's flattening out the ridge. We no longer have this arc right here. So it's kind of plowing through the ridge, flattening it out, weakening it significantly. There's the ridge, by the way, of high pressure. Now we got more of a what we call a zonal flow type pattern. I've mentioned this before in years past. Essentially, this is the track of storms. So this just opens up the door for these storms to move on in, and that gives us the potential for rain, for off and on rain, really. As early as Monday for the coast, but I do think everyone else getting that off and on rain for Tuesday, most likely through next week. There's through Friday of next week, even into Saturday. We still have that zonal flow type pattern. So any storms that are over the Pacific and kind of rotating around this area of low pressure will come right into the Pacific Northwest and Northern California and give us some welcomed rain. Now at this point, I'm not expecting anything major, flooding or anything of that nature. Just off and on chances for showers kind of pushing on through. A classic, cool and unsettled weather pattern. So yeah, the Climate Prediction Center is picking up on it, right? The weather, the normal conditions are certainly in the forecast. But again, I'm not expecting this to be a washout. Now, our short-range forecast model, our in-house forecast model, is finally picking up on some of that rain. So let's take a look at that. Here we go on Saturday. Yeah, again, same story. It's not picking up on the fog. That's, again, the models tend to have a difficult time with that. I just want to illustrate when that rain may start to kick in. Timing of this is going to change. You'll have to watch, of course, throughout the day and for later updates, and, of course, Chase Wilson over the weekend. But there you can see as we go into your Monday, see how the rain starts. Around midday, the main band of rain is still off to our west, and then going through the afternoon into Monday night, we start to see that rain kick in. Mainly for the North Coast, right? Maybe western Siskiyou County getting in that as well. But this will continue to push eastward, and eventually everyone else is going to get in on that rain probably by around Tuesday. So I think about the Bob Dylan song, "The Times They Are A-Changin'." And yeah, that's certainly kind of the case here in the world, but when we're talking about the weather, yeah, the times are a-changing as well, because what we've got here is that ridge of high pressure moving off to the east. You see this? Now, the timing, the intensity of all these systems pushing through, that's all going to change through next week. That's the bottom line. But what I really wanted to illustrate is that through next week, with that zonal flow type pattern, we've got one storm system after the other that'll be pushing through. Now, again, I want to point out that I'm not seeing any significant storms that are going to bring us, super strong winds and a ton of rainfall and a ton of snow. And speaking of snow, I'm not going to be including the snow levels in the 7-day forecast because it's going to be above 7,000 feet. And that's not going to have any significant impacts on your travel. And unfortunately, that also means the ski park, at least at the lower elevations of the ski park, probably won't see snow, or at least much of it, should it at least, because it'd probably be more of a rain-snow mix. But you're also noticing, and again, that's the reason why our snow levels will be fairly high. We've got a fairly warm air mass that's still in place, and that's going to keep those snow levels fairly high. Now, lake levels, this is a little discouraging to see. We're still watching Lake Oroville drop below normal, where we should be for this time of the year, at about 97%, but this is encouraging, even though the lakes do look a little depressing. They get lower this time of the year, but they should eventually start to fill up once we get that weather pattern moving on in, and especially, in the months to come. Fingers crossed, right? We keep that wet weather pattern. But there you can see the wave heights. They're going to be fairly low. They're dropping even more so by the time we do get into your weekend. So that's good news. There was that beach hazard statement due to sneaker waves yesterday. That has been lifted. So we take a look at our forecast for your Friday, your marine forecast. North winds at about 5 to 10 knots. There's your waves. There's your high, your low tide. And we got that patchy dense fog, especially this morning, but possibly even going into the afternoon. All right, so here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Now, again, the temperatures that you see here in Trinity County are going to depend on if you see fog and when that fog decides to burn off. So I still have that fog in the forecast at least through Saturday, but again, that could persist into Sunday and possibly into Monday, but Monday, those chances are going to be slimmer, especially off to the west here, with eventually some rain as early as Monday, especially Monday afternoon for the coast. And even the inland areas could see some of those showers here by Monday afternoon. And then, again, this looks like a washout, but it's often on chances for rain. And I think most of the rain is going to be for the north coast, as we would expect. But, again, it's not going to be, a big washout. Here you have temperatures for Siskiyou County. Now, I think for places like Scott Valley, you got fog through a good portion of the day today. We've got that really dense fog out towards I-5, Hornbrook, Wairika, Gazelle, Weed, even seeing that fog all in here. That should eventually burn off here as we go into the late morning hours. Modoc County, there may be some patchy fog there, but otherwise mainly sunny skies above that fog. You've got the chance for showers coming in by Tuesday of next week. In the eastern mountains, there could be some patchy fog for some of those low-lying valleys, but otherwise you are going to be looking at those temperatures. Looks like somewhere my monitors broke apart. Let me see what happened here. Interesting. They came back on. Hopefully that didn't impact anything else. I'm going to keep recording here, but just kind of give you an idea, there may be a little disruption in there. All right. So now let's take a look at the Valley neighborhood forecast to the south. Again, that fog is going to persist through the day, so that's going to keep those temperatures in the mid-40s on average. And I've got fog through Saturday, including the Chico area, but we still could see fog Sunday. And we can't rule it out on Monday either, but that's just kind of those things we'll have to keep monitoring as we get closer to that time frame. In the meantime, yes, you've got rain coming from those clouds Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, take you up to the north. Yeah, we may see some clearing. I think we're going to, especially as you get in kind of the outer fringes around Redding here, Bella Vista, Palisadro, Old Shasta. Old Shasta probably won't do so much fog at all. But you can see, look at above the fog, 62 for Whiskeytown, 64 in Lakehead. But as you get closer down to the valley, only in the upper 40s for those daytime highs. All right, so looking at that 7-day forecast for Redding, we got those temperatures eventually in the low 60s. Now, typically, we would say cool and unsettled, cooler and unsettled for next week. And it will be cool and unsettled. But it's actually going to be warmer than it was this week simply because the fog won't be there. So we'll still call it cool and unsettled, just not as cool as it was this week, with off and on chances for showers coming in as early as Tuesday, off and on all the way through next week. All right, that's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon today with the latest forecast. Have a great morning.
When you see flashing lights, someone's life depends on us.
And while we're out helping crash victims, we need your help to keep us safe. Move over, slow down, it's the law, it protects everyone.
Our crews are out here every day, keeping the roads safe for you and your family.
We're often the last ones on scene, and we want to make it home safe too.
Protect those who protect you, slow down and move over.